Well, I'm Mike Rash for Global Atlanta, and I'm a guest today in the offices of EVS Translation Services. And sir, if you could introduce yourself for our listeners.
Yeah, my name's Edward Vick. I'm CEO of EVS Translations. It's a company which is headquartered in Europe with 10 offices there, and we're really excited to have our first office here in Atlanta.
Great. Well, thank you for coming. What made you decide to come to Atlanta as your first U.S. location?
Well, we made an analysis of many different metropolitan areas because that was very important for us. As you can see, we like to have our office in a city center. Mm-hmm. It was also very important to have a very vibrant community. Our analysis said that Atlanta was looking strong not only now, but also in 10 years' time. Okay. That if any recession would be coming to Atlanta, it would be with a small r. And we think also that the most important thing is people. Mm-hmm. And we made a search for people in 4 cities which came into onto the short list, and it was Atlanta which turned up trumps. Okay.
Do you mind if I ask what those other cities were?
Sure. The first to get knocked out were New York and Detroit. Mm-hmm. And then very close then was Chicago before we made a decision for Atlanta.
Okay. And what were some of the qualities that you were looking for that you found here in Atlanta as opposed to those other cities?
I think finding for a new base relatively reasonable accommodations here in the city center. Mm-hmm. Another thing is that EVS is a European company up to now. We're here in the United States to change this a little bit. But a translation company obviously likes to move close to some of its clients. Mm-hmm. And we in Germany have, out of the top 100 companies, 50 of them are our clients, and almost all of these 50 are located in the United States, and many of them in the region of Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And that's why not only do we want to follow our clients to the United States, but we also want to gain clients and to provide the translation services of EVS in the United States.
Mr. Vick, could you please tell us what kind of translations you offer?
We work really on business-to-business basis, and almost everything which is important between one business and another business, we translate. We work for marketing agencies, we're involved in advertising campaigns worldwide. For instance, you just think of a slogan for a hair care company. That has to be translated perhaps in one language or perhaps into 50 languages. Mm-hmm. Or the bottles on the shampoo that have to be translated in one country, 100 different bottles. Mm-hmm. Or alternatively, such things as interpreting for press conferences or annual general meetings. Finance is a key area. Banking, almost as big, with some of the largest banks in Europe being our clients. Alternatively, we are very, very strong in automotive, as Germany is one of the largest premium car makers in the world, and also having a lot of production worldwide means that we're doing all sorts of translations from production, technical, marketing, financial, for these types of companies. And so it's sometimes very interesting how varied view we can have on one company, that a bank would make a credit analysis on the company, another bank will make an analysis of whether the stock should be a buy or a sell, another company will be doing for the same company an advertising campaign. Then from the company itself we are asked to do part of the translations for the advertising, so that as a whole I would see our translation business as like a jigsaw puzzle of business. Mm-hmm. And the longer somebody works at the company, the greater the possibilities there are for getting an overall view of what really business is like. And this is also something that we tell people who come to work for us as translators, that very often working as a translation company, you're really honing in your skills of becoming a translator, but at the same time have the opportunity, should you decide after 2 or 3 years of working in a translation company, to go into almost any of the areas that I described before: marketing, finance, business, technical, because you have experienced within the company the right vocabulary, the right way of thinking, because we are, shall we say, the reflection of the business which is happening outside in the world.
It sounds like a very wide range of products. You mentioned shampoo bottles, press releases.
I think the business world is extraordinarily complex, and the more you're involved with it, the more complex it becomes. And it's very interesting when you're within a company like this to be able to see the interrelationships between the companies, and at the same time, for us it's very important to realize every one of our staff members has to sign a confidentiality agreement, that what goes on in the company stays in the company. But it is a really wide and varied amount of things that we're doing. And if, as a company that had an original speciality in doing annual reports, if you do an annual report for a big company, they know that you know the finance. And then they also know that you know the other business that they're doing. And so you become involved and integrated in the company and a whole wide variety of different levels. And that is part of the fascinating work of working in a translation company.
Okay. And how many different languages do you work in?
Last year we did 83 different language combinations, so that we have a wide variety. I would say, if I would describe our business in 20 seconds, it would be, let's open the Financial Times. And what's most interesting for us is the date.
Okay.
Because 40% of what's in there has come through our office at some time or another in the past. We may have been working on some sort of translation of some multinational deal 12 months ago, and it now finally comes into the newspaper. Or alternatively, a press release on some really important matter which we finished 2 hours ago and now comes onto the internet in a translation that has come through us.
Okay.
The problem and challenge of the translation business is it's really so important. It's the cutting edge of communication on the one hand, but on the other hand, very often nobody's really interested in who does it. Very often I make the joke, well, it's not a joke, it's very serious, that some CEO will be going to international conferences and using the words of EVS translations. He hasn't got the slightest idea of who did the translation, because the translation is actually sourced well down in the company.
Okay.
And so we see that it's the most difficult task, wherever we go, is to find the decision makers in a company.